Hi, and welcome back to the podcast. Really pleased today to be joined by Joe Stimson. Great to have you here today.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, likewise. So, just to kick things off, then, what is it that you do in your business? How do you help people?
So I help people with sales. I'm a sales strategist and coach. So in my one-to-one program, I help people get consistent, be accountable to someone, and not just increase their sales, but also the way they think about sales along the way.
Excellent. That sounds good. Definitely keen to get into more details, find out more about how you work. But what kind of people are you mainly working with, and what are the problems they typically coming to you with as well?
So I split my business by platform. So my Facebook audience is female entrepreneurs,
Yeah,
where sales is they've tend to have had a corporate career, been very successful, now start their own businesses and are kind of running away from sales and all the
yeah,
things that a corporate business, kind of needs to bring into their own online business. So it's as much a helping hand and being there to guide and someone to speak to in that regard. And then from a LinkedIn point of view, that is bricks and mortar SMEs with sales teams that need coaching, where the owner managed business, they don't have the time to do that.
I see. And when you start to work with those business owners, then what are the typical sales challenges? Are they coming to you just not sure how to kind of close sales, or are they just not engaging with the sales process? Genuinely, what are the normal kind of starting situations when you start to work with someone?
Normally, if you take an online business owner, it's that sales gets to the bottom of the list every day
Yep.
because they're busy doing all the other things that need to be done, and spinning all the plates and wearing all the hats. Um, so it tends to be they know they need to be consistent. They know they need to be doing sales, but they're also confusing where they're selling with where they're marketing, where they're positioning, where their visibility strategy is, and calling that selling rather than having a set time during a day, week, or month where they actually sell in their business and carry out income generating tasks.
That's interesting. I think that makes a lot of sense. But for people listening, then, do you have any examples of what they might be thinking of as selling versus what they should be doing instead?
Um, well, I kind of come from the school of some of the things are not doing the thing. So,
Yeah,
reading the book about the thing isn't doing the thing, is watching a webinar isn't doing the thing. So they could probably feel that they are selling and being busy because they are posting on social media, probably sporadically, not
yeah,
consistently, not with any intention or with any kind of strategy behind it. They may be emailing their list frequently or infrequently. Um, and really, where I come in from is it's what you do with those things. So, if you're going to post on social media, how are you going to, in all intention, lead that into a conversation about the thing that you do?
yeah,
So, how are you going in? Commenting on other people's stuff? Are you audience building? Are you getting known for what you do and building a community and connections across the platforms that you're using? Or are you posting once a week, running away, and then having a conversation with someone like me to go, I've tried social media and it doesn't work?
yeah. So is it just not being intentful, not approaching those platforms with the right mindset or strategy?
Yeah, having a mindset to sell What am I going to do today that can lead me to be having conversations? Because that's ultimately what sales is. It's just having a conversation about the thing that you do. And then the person either needs it, wants it, they move towards you, or you move towards them. So it's what activities are you going to do? So I suggest to people they pick 3 to 4 things that they do. Visually, it's a stool or a table, and choose those things that they're going to commit to do in their business for 90 days every day. So if social media is one thing that you do, then let's build a strategy. What are you going to post about? How are you going to engage with people? Are you going to run polls? Are you going to do masterclasses? Are you going to do a free challenge? Are you
Yeah.
going to email your list? There's a myriad of ways that people can do the lead generation sales side of it. But I kind of see it like playing the drums. Both have to go at the same time, because without the lead generation and without that being visible, selling will become really difficult. But if you're doing all of this outreach and then sitting in your business with your fingers crossed, then the sales and the money in the bank gets there by luck and not by strategy or intention.
Yeah. And do you think people hold back from being as direct as they should be and making it clear they have something to offer on those platforms as well?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'll see a lot. When someone steps forward to work with me, I'll obviously look at their, social media pages if that's what they're choosing to use. And I could be scrolling, a good 5, 10 minutes before I actually see a post about this is the thing that I do and what you can buy.
Yeah.
They should be making, in my opinion, making their offer every day. They should be making it known. This is how I can help you. This is how much it is. This is how it's made up, so that consistently over 90 days they are drip feeding out the cost of their program, what it entails, and who it's for.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you think people hold back from doing that? Are they not confident in what they've got to offer, or do you think they're just concerned about being perceived in the wrong way, maybe being too salesy, pushy? A lot of people tend to have,
Mhm.
reservations about selling in the wrong way, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a mixture of all of that, particularly if it's their personal Facebook page that they're going to be using, then they're worried what are their friends and family going to say, all of that. It's not go and get a proper job, what you're
Yeah,
doing with messing about online with this, other people's opinions, not being confident, not knowing if they should niche, or if they do niche, then have they picked the right one? Because there's fear of missing out on the other side, particularly if it's
yeah,
someone that can help a wide range of people. Then they get very resistant to, niching by person, by solution, or by problem. And people get kind of frozen, because they're like, I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do it.
yeah,
And I believe that you have to get to a stage where it's just like, you know what, I'm going anyway. I'm really passionate about my business. I want to grow it. I thank all of you for your opinion, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'd like your
yeah,
support in it. But if I don't have your support, then I'd really appreciate to not have your opinions around what I'm doing while I'm going to go off and do this thing. And they're tough conversations to have, but from my experience and the people I've worked with over many decades of entrepreneurs and people that I've worked for, that's what they've had in common, that real bloody mindedness to go, I'm doing it anyway.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I think you're right. I think people, especially with that niche, they hold back from being as clear in their message as they should be for fear that one of the other people they might better help, like you said, they miss out on that. But
Yeah.
they might still attract them anyway. But if they're not being specific enough in the first place, then how is someone really going to know and believe that you're the person that can help them with whatever it is you do?
Yeah, 100%. You need to find a way for people to see themselves in the content that you're putting out, whether that's video or text or written or photos or however you choose to do it, but how can someone look at it and recognize themselves in it to then make the step forward to know that they want to, find a solution or someone to support them.
Yeah, and in the mix of that content that they're putting out, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, how direct do you think people should be? You say they should be making an offer every day, but how clear do you think they need to be in terms of getting someone to actually take an action, take the next step, versus just post something valuable and hope people will then follow the breadcrumb trail to then
Hmm.
lead through to working with them?
I'm a big believer in being very overt. So, my way of doing it would be to say, I'm looking for this type of person who has this type of problem or wants this kind of solution. Um, from my mentors that I've had the last couple of years in the online space, again, I agree with the way that they do it in tell people how much it's going to be. Don't let people guess, because people will always guess that it's a higher price than it is potentially, and they won't
Yeah,
step towards you because they don't want to have the awkward conversation of, I can't afford it or no. Whereas if it says it's X amount, people self select themselves in or out.
yeah,
No. So I think being really overt, being really clear, this is the type of person that I'm looking to talk to about this thing, leaves no grey area. It's not, it's, as I say, if you're selling to everyone, you're selling to no one. It's an echo chamber, it's
yeah, yeah.
crickets and all the things that you hear. So the more specific you can be, the easier it will be for people to know you as the go-to person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for people fearful of that, perhaps sometimes they're just fearful that, well, what if I am specific and then no one engages? Where does that leave me then, right?
Time served is a thing. We'll all get those moments where we launch something or put something out there. Sometimes it will be picked up quick, and other times it won't be picked up at all. But that comes down to having really robust, reviewing process within yourself to say,
Yeah,
okay, did I follow all the steps? Is it the product's not wrong, but the timing's off? Or does the message need to be tweaked? Or is it, I just haven't put it out there enough?
yeah, yeah,
If you're not putting it out there enough and getting it in front of people for long enough, then the, I do believe that the reason a lot of things fail is that people give up too soon. We've
yeah,
all seen the graphics of, people digging for gold and, trees coming up and all of that. And there has to obviously be a cut-off point where, whether it's financial or motivational wise, I'm gonna that's the time I'm gonna review and look at it. But people's timeline is sometimes shorter because I think you need to be careful who you're comparing yourself to, because if you're comparing yourself with someone who built a business, launched a business before lockdown, and then had lockdown where everyone was at home, and some very successful businesses were built in that time.
yeah,
4 years later, we live in a very different time that is very noisy. That is a lot of people retrained and came out as coaches and therapists and, VAs and all the online businesses, which is great. And it's, certainly seen an upsurge. And I think that's fantastic. But I think people need to be aware of who they're actually comparing themselves to. Is it apples with
yeah,
apples or is it apples with pears? Because then that kind of can put you straight again to go, hang on a minute, I've been in business 14 months. That person's had their business for 6 years. Regardless of whether we're offering the same thing, the time served element still has a lot to play in the success and the learnings.
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of lessons that would have been learned over that time frame. There would also have been a lot of network effects and brand awareness built up over that time as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Yeah, and I see a lot of people get really, it's not working for me, it's not working for me, but they're so far back from the track, they've got to put the things in place to be able to be in the race at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. There needs to be a mix of taking the right actions, taking consistent action, as you say, as well as a bit of patience.
Yeah. Yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day and all of those things, but sometimes people get lucky. Sometimes they come out with something that people want, and that's fantastic. But again, go in with your eyes wide open to be like, if that happens, that's fantastic. But otherwise it's gonna be, it's gonna be 18 months, 2 years slog of getting yourself known and building those consistent habits.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the self-confidence, belief, and doing it for the right reasons have to come in to things, because otherwise what is going to motivate you? It's not going to be easy all the time in order to get to that point of success that you're aiming for, is it? So I think you have to acknowledge, are you doing it because you think there's an easy or quick opportunity, or is it something that you're actually passionate about building and having some longevity?
It goes back to your why that everybody, all coaches speak about, how strong is your why? What's your reason for doing it? Exactly as you said, if it's to make a quick buck, then there's probably less stressful ways to do that than
Yeah,
start a business from scratch, to be fair.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, absolutely. And I think with a lot of expert-based businesses as well, you have to ask the question, you know, is it just that you love what you're doing and you want to do more of it, or are you willing to take on and acknowledge the business side of it that's going to come with it, that's going to enable you to do the thing that you want to do?
Yeah, 100%. And I do think, particularly for the online space, people leave their corporate career and they it's like they forget how a business operates because they've been part of a business with all the different departments. But you learn working in any business as an employee the workings of a business, and it's like people forget when they come into the work for themselves that the things that work in a corporate business also need to work in a small,
Yeah,
an SME. It's the same things. It's why businesses are profitable, because they do know their numbers. They are lead generating every day. They are income revenue generating focused every day. They are aware of their costs. And yeah, I think some people forget that that's how it is, and then they find themselves, in a point where they've run out of money.
yeah, I think people do forget how it is, or maybe wish it wasn't like it is. But the fact that, I think, especially for the solo business owner at that stage, you are wearing all the different hats, and I think it can sometimes be difficult to remember that those are all responsibilities that you have to take ownership of. You can't just pick your favorite ones and drop the others.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And if you can afford it, to bring someone in to help you on the things that you're not strong, find a good VA, tech VA. There's loads of options out there that mean the jobs get done and
yeah,
not just forgotten until the time when you've got to put your accounts in. And then you're like, oh, actually, I should have done all of this other stuff
yeah,
that,
yeah,
now I've got to pay someone to unpick all the stuff that I haven't done. So, a bookkeeper is always, again, in my opinion, the first place to look once you're starting building some revenue.
yeah,
Make sure that your books are right.
yeah. And for people that are perhaps in the early stage or a bit sales averse, is that something that they could, or what kind of help should they get? I know some people will work with people like yourself to help develop their sales skills. I think some people hope that they could just outsource the entire thing and forget about it. But what advice would you give someone trying to make that whole sales process easier for themselves?
You need to learn, and whether that's learning from books and YouTube videos and free content, which is free but time consuming,
Yeah,
or you learn from someone, like you say, a sales coach that can help you, or mentor. The sales function has to happen because it's the lifeblood of any business. And as a solopreneur, as well as wearing all the hats, you're also paid to be the sales and marketing director of your business.
Mm.
So it falls to you. So if you've got the money to bring in, a social media help, for want of a better way to say it, or a copywriter to write some of the copy to get your sales pages up, it's where that cash rich, time poor equilibrium comes in. If you're time rich because you're just starting out and you're cash poor, then it's on you. You've got to go and
Yeah.
find the solutions, talk to people that you know. um, some people give free time away, make good use of those offers when you see them. Or if it's vice versa, because you're still working a job while you're running your business, then you could outsource a lot of these things. But the business owner will always be the best salesperson in a business, because if
Yeah.
their why is strong enough and the reason that they've done it, then they are the best attractor of new clients to their business than outsourcing it to someone who's employed.
Absolutely. I think if you can't be a true advocate for your own business, then I think the level of success you're likely to see is going to be pretty limited, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is why, in bricks and mortar businesses, the owner managers that I work with feel so frustrated, because it's like, well, why can't they go and sell like I can? I'm paying them a lot of money, but they
Yeah.
don't have the same attachment to the reason for doing it, because it's a job for them and it's a business. And, your livelihood over here, you'll never find people that will be able to cross over that easily, not without shareholding and, all the other
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
potentially can go into it. um, so yeah, from a solopreneur, small business owner point of view, that the owner is the best salesperson that business will ever have.
Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree. And you mentioned the bricks and mortar businesses you work with as well as the online ones. I'm curious, a lot of people don't have, both of those types of experience in sales as well. What are the lessons that you think that people in the online space might be able to take from the bricks and mortar space?
Well, the basic sales 101, flyer in, local advertising. If you think about, you open up a bakery in a town. Yes, you've got the position of where you are, but you need to get your message out there. So it is, a small advert in the local paper. It is flyers out with the um, local newspapers or village
Yeah.
magazines that are being delivered. It is networking. It is showing up in person and, introducing your business in that
Mm.
way. And I do think, I am uniquely placed with having a foot in each camp, having had my own bricks and mortar business for nearly 20 years, and being the MD and sales director of that business, that there's a lot of things that we did on a daily basis, picking up the phone, cold
Yeah.
calling, following up, the dreaded words that people don't like very much. Um, relationship building, keeping in contact with our customers, face-to-face visits from the sales team to nurture and build relationships. All of that mixed in with online practices of social media, email nurture sequences, quiz funnels, if you do, and massive networking opportunities in the online space, even online or offline. If you
Yeah.
mixed those together, which is what I do with my clients, we kind of throw it all out on the table, a bit X Factor style, and say, what suits you with the time you've got, the money you've got, and the motivation that you've got. And we kind of pick and choose which ones work best. But you've got the mixture of the two because both work.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So again, if you're time rich but cash poor to get a load of flyers made, particularly if it's something that you sell to the general public, and go and fly at local housing estates. People don't get a lot of stuff through the door, so it's more likely to be seen.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. There's
but it
definitely a
takes
lot.
time, it takes effort, and that's the goes back to the, what's the motivation? How badly do you want to build your business?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people can sometimes hide behind, the safety of online, like you mentioned before. Oh, I've done a few posts, it didn't work, but yeah, how about you try something a bit more proactive, like you say, pick up the phone, go to some networking events. Those are all valid ways of getting attention, but you've got to be willing to take that step, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and you can buy email lists, of, particularly if you're business centric, then, there's everything's available to you, and since COVID, it's pushed everything forward dramatically,
Yeah.
so the opportunities to build a successful business are better than ever. It's just there sometimes can be too much choice. And like I said, if
Yes.
you're comparing apples with pears and you're following somebody else's advice, then it may work for them because of their unique personality, their experience, and who they know, that might not work as very well for you. And I
Mm.
think, again, people, along with the comparison, because people don't know behind the door, what's actually propping up the business. Is it like me? I work for myself, and I don't have a partner, so I have to generate money to keep my world going,
Yeah.
but behind the closed doors, there might be someone who's, it's okay, you've got 3 years to get this off the ground and you haven't got to worry about the money. And that's two very different mindsets from behind
Mm.
closed doors that look the same on the other side.
Yep.
And again, I'm just a big advocate of transparency. Yes, someone might say I built my business in 12 months, but they may have had all the resources, all the time, all the support, a massive network of people, moved what they did in their day job to work for themselves, and managed to have a pool of people where they could find instant customers. But all of that other bit of the story is never told. All you hear is, I took my business from,
Yep.
zero to multi six figures in 12 months. And then people kind of think that they can replicate it. Um, so yeah, like I said, I'm big on transparency. Just give more context to, you know, how you've actually done it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's important to remember. You definitely don't see the complete picture and complete story, so it's not a positive thing to compare yourself. Just work out what actions you should be taking and actually get on with executing those, learning from what's happening and moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. You know, take the lessons, take the inspiration for sure, but it's your business, run your way, and no one should kind of try to fit you into certain slots and say that's the way you should do it, because everybody's challenges are unique. Everybody's, strengths and USPs are unique, and it's about finding out how you can run your business with the time, money, motivation constraints that we all have.
Yeah. No, completely agreed. So when you work with a client, then what's the typical process? How do you normally engage with them? How do you normally work with them?
So engagement tends to be social media at this moment in time.
Yeah.
From a solopreneur, online business owner point of view, um, it would be a discovery call to make sure that we're a good fit, because we're working one to one. So I want to know that they know kind of what they're getting, and
Yeah.
I'm going to get someone who's committed to do the work. Um, and then we meet once a fortnight on Zoom for 90 minutes. So at the beginning, we set the goals, the intentions, really deep dive into their business so that I can understand what's going on and what they've tried, and what's
Yeah, yeah,
working and what isn't. And then they have full access to me around that time, so they can voice note any challenges, any questions, any, oh, this has happened, or so that we can keep the business moving. And over 90 days, the two of us take their business from where it is and move it closer to the goal that they've set themselves.
yeah,
Because,
yeah,
as I said at the beginning, it's not necessarily just financial goals, it's how they feel about making and doing the sales function within their business. And that's always a big shift.
yeah. So I
And
think that's
then
really
if they
interesting. I
did
think,
4 back-to-back 90-day plans in their business, they would transform their business if they focused on 4 90-day plans.
yeah, I can imagine, that consistency that we talked about before is super important. That mindset and the compounding effects of that as well. And for people that you work with, especially kind of new people, what are the typical kind of different, not in terms of financial terms or anything, because as you mentioned, the context kind of matters, but from a mindset perspective, what do you tend to see at the end of that first 90-day sprint versus how they came to you in the first place?
They tend to realize that it's not as difficult as they thought it was going to be. We all make these things that we don't want to do into, massive
Yeah,
um, stones that we don't want to pick up. So they realize that it is achievable. And again, dependent on the time and the money and the restraints that they've got, what tends to happen is they start making some sales. They take products and launch it off to-do lists and put them out in the world, and then we just review and handhold, all the way through, because statistically, it shows if you're launching new products, if you do it with a coach or with a support person, from an emotional point of view, because launching is can be emotional, particularly if it's
yeah,
crickets when it first goes out there, you're more likely to stick with it and succeed than if you're doing it on your own,
yeah,
because you will get to that point where it's not working, so I'm just going to stop. Whereas having someone with you to go, okay, let's relook at it. What's the actions happening? Are you actually doing all of the actions that you said you were going to do, or have you dropped some? And just
yeah,
having someone to kind of gently nudge them along the path. And certainly the clients that I've had recently, they came in from a place where they want to be helpful. They did a lot of stuff for free, so they were using a lot of their time, but
yeah,
giving lots of sessions away. And as we finish up this 90-day, all of them we have built a place within their business where they can give back and give some sessions for free, because that's what I do in mine, because that feeds
yeah,
part of my personality and how I want my business to run. But there's a mechanism around it for people actually paying them for the bulk of the work that they do, so they are making more money.
yeah. And is, from a pricing perspective and pricing mindset perspective as well, is that something that you commonly end up helping them with, to kind of recognize the value, and that yes, people will pay what they are ultimately worth?
Yeah, yeah, pricing is a big part of what we do, for sure. And again, some very very clever, very educated people giving a lot of stuff away for free, because it's like you've left your going back to it, you've left what you did for a day job, you've set up your business on its own, and it's like everything you knew has fallen out of your head, and you feel
Yeah,
like, I'm starting from scratch here. And no, you're not. You're starting so far down the track that it sometimes needs someone to go, hang on a minute, you're charging X, but you've got, you've got a master's in this and a diploma in this, and you've helped this many hundred people. You know what you're doing, so people need to pay you for the experience that you've got.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
again, apples with apples, apples with pears. Who you're comparing yourself to. You're so farther down the track than you think you are, and that tends to be what happens most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. No, as well, I work with a lot of coaches and consultants, and that undervaluing piece is very common. You're not really appreciating, what has led them to the point they are
Yeah.
now, and therefore not putting the appropriate value on the difference in the impact they can make. And it's their own, self doubts and thoughts that then stop them from charging. And I've seen people that, oh, maybe if I charged a bit less or gave a bit more away for free, that more people would work for me, and they just end up diluting what they do rather than having more confidence in the opposite effect.
Yeah, and they fall out of love with their business and they close it down and they walk away, because ultimately it's not being given the attention that it needs. Um, the age range of, solopreneurs, women starting businesses, is, I think, very relevant in and around the self confidence and the, questioning their ability, perimenopause, and all of, what we know all about that does have a major impact, and life stages, Gen X, and having other people to care for. So you go from having to care for your kids and then potentially caring for adults, and
Yeah,
all of this has an impact on what is actually possible for people to do in their business. And I just try to be a bit of that reality check in a way. Feedback from people that work for me is straight talking, you know black and white advice,
yeah,
but with an emotional touch to it, because sometimes people do need that tough love, but sometimes people do need an arm around them at the same time to say, okay, we get it. This is a situation. Let's go back and revisit the goals and see what you wanted to do. Is it now feasible? Can you make those promises to your business? Because I try to get them to see that them and their business aren't one and the same.
yeah,
They have a job to do for their business, but the minute they decide to open up the doors on their business, they're responsible for the survival of it. So,
yeah.
what promises and commitments are they going to make to that entity so that it can flourish and survive and thrive and give them the things that they want further down the line? Um, and and that's, can be really complicated. If a business and the person is like this, and I know it's painful because I lived that. Me and my
Yeah,
previous business, we were one and the same. It makes it really hard to distance yourself from it, and make the decisions, particularly as the owner or the leader, that your business needs you to make. And to delegate becomes difficult because no one can do it as good as you. So then you don't delegate. So then you get, more overwhelm and more stuff to do as your business does start to grow. So the sooner people
yeah, yeah,
can see that gap, again, my opinion, is the sooner people can see that, they'll make a different perspective of view, and they'll allow team to drop in the middle.
yeah. No, that's really really interesting. And one thing that came to mind as well, talking about use of social platforms as well, that plays into that identity differentiation between them and the business. I think so many of those businesses are built on, as a lot of people would recommend, on a personal brand. So if you've got your
Yeah.
personal brand and the personal brand is really there to promote the business, again, how do you differentiate between you as a person, you know, outside of work and the business and the personal brand that is then attracting attention for the business?
I think it's a conscious decision because I've done it both ways.
Yeah,
So, and I know which way feels more comfortable and easier for me to make the decisions on, which is that distance. Even if your business is your name, as most coaching businesses are, if you can go into it with a view of, okay, I'm the custodian of this business that happens to have my name,
yeah,
But my job is to do all that I can for this business, whether it is a hobby business, whether it's a lifestyle business, whether it's being built for sale. The sooner someone can start from that mindset, the quicker the decision making will become, because it's not about me, it's about it.
Yeah,
It's about the business. What does it need from me, and what can I give it in order for it to do the things that I want it to give me back and pay me back in the future.
yeah,
So it's a bit like, I guess, having a dog or raising a child, being very kind of flippant about those things, but nurturing that entity in the beginning so that you reap the rewards of it as it gets older.
yeah, absolutely. So it's, even if you might have a personal profile, Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever, it's making that decision as to, well, what is that? Is that a personal one? And it might be different on different platforms. Like Facebook might be more personal, but LinkedIn's still under your name. But it should very much be, or could very much be, it's still that persona of you rather than, all of you, if you like. It is the, ambassador for your business persona of you that is showing up on that platform, and that means you act in certain ways in accordance with that.
Yeah, it's the vehicle. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very part of my framework is personality. I've a Pentagon process of 5 Ps, and the last one is personality. You need that's your differentiator, that's you. So where
Yeah,
in your business are you showing the personality? Particularly if I look at the bricks and mortar side of it with the sales teams, they're predominantly men. They all look the same at networking events.
yeah,
So where has the brand got some personality that the people that work for it can latch onto?
yeah, yeah,
Whether that is brand colors or a certain way that they dress or certain phrases that they use. But how how can they build personality in? So my previous business was a relationship personality driven company. We wanted people to deal with us. The fact that we talked about one thing, if we talked about something else, everyone would still have their jobs and still carry out the same function. It's just the products that's different. But the brand had its own personality that drew people towards it. And people can do that for themselves. They can build that strong personal brand that will bring people towards them.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, yeah, super important to have that personality, and like you say, just be wary of still, maintaining that identity, and then making sure that it's serving the intended purpose and working for
Mm.
you and working for your business ultimately.
Yeah, it's all got to be, congruent. It's not you rock up on LinkedIn as a completely different person to the person that
No,
would, rock up somewhere else. Because if you choose networking as part of your lead generation strategy, you want you want it all to be congruent. You want the person that they meet is the person they've seen on the video, and the
yeah, yeah,
person that's done the thing, and the terminology that you use and the way that you speak in text comes across in the way that you speak in real life. So you want it all to be the same and not to be different versions of yourself. And LinkedIn is a prime example of that, because people think it's a business and it's stuffy and you can only show up
mm,
in a different way, but it's still a place to show your personality.
yeah. No, absolutely. And I've seen, some people, a minority, complaining, oh, LinkedIn is becoming like Facebook, etc. But I think what they're really responding to is people doing that. They're showing their personality. They're showing the different aspects of who they are, how they work, who they work with people. And I think, the people that don't engage as well with that are perhaps just you know, haven't found that identity for themselves, or not sure what they should be doing
Mm.
on the platform in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that statement. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, no, interesting. Well, thank you for, yeah, sharing a lot of those insights about, especially the kind of sales process, but really kind of business identity and mindset, I think. But for any coaches, consultants listen to this, before we wrap things up, is there any kind of lasting piece of advice that you'd give them to help them move forwards in their business?
To reiterate the distance, if you can do, your business is this and you sit over here, for sure. Another practice that I would recommend people do is to have imaginary board meetings with themselves at the end of each month and quarter, take themselves off and sit somewhere else and imagine they had to talk about their business performance for that month or quarter to somebody else. And it's surprising how that suddenly sparks people into realizing some of the things that they're not doing for their business that they should be, if they did have to explain it to someone. And I think that practice of the board meeting kind of style has had a dramatic effect on the way that I run my business,
Yeah,
because obviously most people kind of promote the things that they've done themselves, and I've come from that corporate boardroom kind of background. But just to take yourself off with your numbers, with your activity, with what you've done, and actually have a real conversation with yourself. Am I actually doing, or do I just think I'm busy? Because ultimately the results will show at some stage from the work that you're doing, if you're doing the
yeah, yeah,
work. And as I said, reading the book, watching the webinar isn't doing the thing.
yeah. Might
Doing the
feel
thing
good.
is doing the thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It comes down
absolutely.
to doing the work.
Yeah, yeah. No, that sounds like a very useful practice that I think a lot of people would definitely benefit from. So thank you for sharing that, and yeah, thank you very much for taking the time today as well. Yeah, really, really interesting conversation, really useful conversation. I hope people take note and listen and perhaps start to take their businesses a bit more seriously and treat it a bit more professionally.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
for your time. Yeah, great to see you.